There it goes. Okay. All right. So, okay. Thanks for coming. Oh, thanks for teaching. Sure, we're learning. It's good. Okay. So now, where is that?
I know this was cold when I put it on there, so.
Let's say this little prayer before we learn. It says prayer before learning from the Arizal. Bono l'mimot ne'am avram v'mim b'slichos modi v'nachnu v'necha Hashem Eloheinu kedu v'shtachaviyah shekero ten l'toratecha l'avodasecha avodas hakodesh v'natata lanu chelik b'sodo toratecha kedosha ma'anu men chayinu asher asisa imanu chesed gadol kazeh al ken achnu malkinu tachnuneinu v'necha shetimcho v'sislach chol chataseinu v'avnaseinu v'al yu v'avnaseinu mavdilim beineinu v'beinecha chen yirtzon v'necha Hashem Eloheinu v'Eloheinu שתכונן אס לבבינו לירשך ולאהבך ותקשיב אזנך לדברינו אלה תפתח לבבינו הערל בסודות תורתך ויהיה לימודנו זה נחס רוח לפני כיסא כבודך וקורא לכוח תציל עלינו אור מקור נשמתנו בכל בחינתנו ושישנותנו עבדיך הקדושים אשר על ידם גליס דבריך אלה בעולם וחוס אבוסם וזכוס תורסם ותמימוסם וקדושתם יעמוד לנו ובל נקשר בדברים אלו וזכוסם תאיר עינינו במה שאנו לומדים כמאמר עיניים בראש ישראל גל עיני וראית נפלאות מתורתך כי השם ייתן חוכמה מפיו ודעת ותבונה ורצון יהיה בפי הגיון לפניך השם צורי ותורה. Okay, so we're going to learn Parshas Noach this week. Breshis is like, well, there's the Tikkunei Zohar, which is all on the first word, Breshis. So the entire book is on the first word, and then there's the Bereshis in the Midrash Nelam here, and in the Zohar that it's like a book and a half of. It's like this enormous amount, and it's just I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's like too much to try to get in for me. So I thought. I mean, there was a lot. There's a lot, obviously. A lot of amazing stuff there, but it was just. We'll start with Noach, and it is maybe at some point we get the Bereshis. It's interesting, like that the Zohar spent so much time on Bereshit. Though it's interesting to note that it really. I mean, I think it's a lot. It's more than any other parsha, the Bereshit. So there's a lot.
It's interesting that you say that because my husband told me that Bereshit is least learned in Shivas because it's always been Asmanim, and it's kind of like that parsha that no one delves into, and he doesn't have any good Bartoras, and you're saying like Chaval, that's a good.
Oh, that's so interesting, right?
It's always like skipped.
Yeah, I was trying to listen to Bereshit on the MP3, and Rabbi Noah Weinberg from Aish, is that Saul? I think he only did the first 4 lines. It was an hour and a half lecture.
Yeah.
So
and it's amazing. I mean, and if you look in the in the Chumash and on Bereshit, yes, Mikro Gedolot. You look over here, and it's like, I mean, the first, it's I remember let's see, there's all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and a half pages of commentary on the first pasuk. So it is. There's the most, almost like the most on it. I remember actually having an interesting conversation with a missionary in Israel. He was trying to convert me, and I said, he was giving me the regular spiel there, and so I opened up Bereshit, and I just showed him. I said, take a look at this. This is like on one line in the Torah. What do you think you're gonna do you think you're gonna add something to all this? You really have something to add that's going to be interesting to me?
How did they respond?
They walked away. They were just like, oh, okay, fine, whatever. I mean, it's there's a story like that. The Rebbe Rayatz of Lubavitch told a story in his memoirs, which is one of the first memoirs published in English, actually, of a Rebbe. It was published in the 50s, interestingly enough, originally. He told a story about a young man who. This whole long involved story, but basically this young man there's some pogrom kind of brewing in this town. He gets wind of it, and he goes to the non-Jewish leaders of the town to try to stop it. So he goes to the mayor, and the mayor, of course, is really friendly with the head priest of the town, and they're sitting there, and he's talking to them, and this is a young man, maybe 14, and the priest thinks to himself, like, oh, I've got a young man here, he doesn't know very much, I'm going to try to convert him. So he starts in with this whole thing. And the young man says, look, I really don't have time right now. I really need to meet with the mayor and we need to discuss this very serious problems going on. But, I believe, we say every day, Hashem Elokeichem Emes, our God is truth. So if there's any truth to what you're saying, of course I'm open to it. I'm open to truth. I want to know what's really real. So if you have something true to tell me and add, then fine. So the priest said, oh, okay, forget it, never mind. This one's too, if he's already into truth, then, if there's something real over there, of course we're into it, So if you have something real to add, then no problem. We're happy to listen, happy to discuss, But if it's just, getting into dogma, you're getting into quote unquote the religious articles of faith, you're going to try to convince me based on, terrible ridiculously literal interpretations of psukim. Forget it. You want to talk about truth. So if there's anything to add, great. And if not, anyway, I didn't mean to get into that. It's just an interesting aside. If anyone should ever be, accosted by that, it's really the kind of direct approach can be really useful. Anyway, I won't say it. Never mind. Okay, so we're not gonna do Breshis, but I wanted to. We're gonna jump to Noach, but I wanted to just share this beautiful conception. It kind of ties in the Pticha to the Zohar. The kind of the introduction to the Zohar, or the Hakdamat Sefer HaZohar, which is part of the Zohar. Famous discussion here. Let's take a look at it here. Patach Ktiv Shoshana Ben Acholchim Ma Shoshana Da Knesset Yisrael. So it's a famous, like a rose amongst the thorns, right? What is this rose? It's Knesset Yisrael. It's the Jewish people. Begida each Shoshana v'each Shoshana. Ma Shoshana, right? So it's a whole. There's an actual rose, and then there's the metaphoric rose, the theoretical rose. Ma Shoshana dihu bein achochim it be somek v'chavar of Knesset Yisrael it be din v'rachmei. Basically, hard a little bit to understand what it's talking about. There's different petals on it. I guess there's different types of roses. Some are red, some are white. Also, the Jewish people has within it din, judgment, and rachmei, compassion. However, Ma Shoshana it bat chleisar alin of Knesset Yisrael it bat chleisar mechilin derachmei. And it's Charon la mikol sitra. The same way that the rose has 13 petals, so too the Jewish people has the 13 attributes of compassion, right? That we say on Yantiv, and that was said by Moshe Rabbeinu originally, right after the golden calf, right? Which is one of my favorite parts of the whole Torah. And Rabbi Nassan of Nemira points out, Jewish people, God says, and the first thing he tells us is I am God, and you should have no other gods before me. Right, or there are no other gods right before me. However you translate it, and then the first thing we do is we make an idol, and then that's already stunning enough. But then the really stunning part is Moshe. God says to Moshe, I'm paraphrasing heavily. God, I'm going to get rid of them and start over with you. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, he literally says, Lama Hashem chara apcha v'amecha. What are you so upset about? What's the big deal? What? Literally, why are you angry? As if, they just, I said, you can imagine it, they said, I said, don't have any idols, they made an Moshe Rabbeinu says, what's the big deal? So Rabbi Nassim Nemra says, what he's really saying to God is, Shchor v'nav v'not Yerushalayim. Saying this concept that the Jewish people are, sometimes, even when they're darkened with sin, even when they have problems, they're still totally beautiful. And so he says that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying to God. He was saying, no, they're really, really great. Even though they made this terrible mistake, it doesn't, in the scheme of things, doesn't really matter. They're really awesome. Right? And so then he says, Hashem Kel Rachum, you're the God of compassion. or the 13 attributes of mercy, of compassion, and God says, "Oh, okay." Right? And so it's like it's this whole beautiful conception of the job of a Jewish leader is to, in every generation, is to open up more and more to God's compassion. The previous generation, right? I mean, that's the first time in human history. Previously, God had always been thought of as totally and entirely deen, judgment. You do right and you do wrong. If you do wrong, you're through. If you do right, you're in. Right? This is the first time in history, as far as I know, where we totally did wrong. We did the exact wrong thing that our God told us to do, and He had compassion on us, basically. Basically, He didn't wipe us out. Right? So Moshe Rabbeinu brought down as the first person in the world to bring down a compassionate conception of God. And so I think it's this that's the real job of the Jewish leaders in every generation, to have the vision to see God more and more compassionate. And we get farther and farther away from Sinai and from, we need more and more compassion, and that's the general. And so the Zohar writes that in our very nature of the very nature of the Jewish people is compassion. That's why. And so you look at it that way. So Moshe Rabbeinu, right, when he says Lama Shemcha Amecha, when he mentions the Jewish people, basically what he's saying, according to the Zohar, it seems like he's saying that I'm looking at the Jewish people and I'm seeing the 13 attributes of compassion. I'm seeing what they bring into the world. And hey, good morning. I'm seeing what they bring into the world. It's almost as if he is. There's another Torah I learned from him 20 years ago where he said that Moshe. I forgot which parsha it's in, but I think it's a parsha where they're counting. If you look, it says Moshe Rabbeinu looked at the people and he wrote down. And so I think it's Rabbi Nachman Torah that Reb Shlomo was quoting, that he said Moshe Rabbeinu was looking at the Jewish people. We got a chair right here. Moshe Rabbeinu was looking at the Jewish people and then writing down the Torah. So what Rabbi Nachman said on that, or Reb Shlomo said, Rabbi Nachman said, was that he was looking at every Jew and he was able to see to the essence of that person, and he was able to see the letter that was that person. And so good morning. Somewhere. I don't know. Yeah.
You can put it in my bowl.
So he was looking at every Yid, and every Jewish person has like this letter, right? This is another teaching, really interesting.